With the seventh selection of the draft, the Flyers are proud to select from St. Petersburg in the KHL, Matvei Michkov.
There you go. The Russian, there he is. Matvei Michkov, some say the second best player in this draft.
This is episode 110 of the Liberty Yell. Danny Deemer here with Chris Stumpa.
As always, how are you, buddy?
Doing well. It's a dead patch of the summer. We were just talking before we started recording how it's kind of frustrating, the lack of news or just anything interesting to hold on to during the summer. But it's going to heat up by the end of this month. Mm-hmm. But for now, I guess we just have to wait for Florida and Edmonton to battle it out and see what happens after.
Who do you got there?
All right, everything in me is saying Florida, but there's a part of me, especially this morning when I got up, that was like, Edmonton kind of feels like a team of destiny. I don't know. It's a good series, though. Like, I could easily see it going 6 or 7. It's just every team that Florida's had to play, they've done such a good job of shutting them down and keeping the games tight and low scoring. But you give that duo on Edmonton and Zach Hyman fucking 7, or like at least 4 to 7 games to figure you out, they might just figure them out. So I really don't fucking know, man.
My gut tells me my gut tells me Florida. Like, my heart tells me Edmonton. Like, it would be great for McDavid, great for hockey, great for pretty much everyone. Don't really think Edmonton is hated on a national level like a Pittsburgh or even Vegas are now. But like, seeing McDavid lift the cup, Leon lift the cup, like 2 franchise players would be really, really cool. But my gut just tells me Florida, man. Like, the goalie matchup, Bobrovsky versus Skinner, and I know Skinner has been really good at this playoffs. I'm not taking anything away from him, but on paper, it's just it's hard to go against that Florida defense, like you said, and how they can just win 2-1 games. Like, they have. It's sort of like the Tampa Bay model, you know what I mean? Like, they've went through the playoffs, they've got that experience, they've learned what it takes to win those kind of games, and now it's just extremely hard to bet against that team. Like, we saw them against the Rangers in that third period; they were suffocating. Like, I haven't seen hockey like the Rangers had. I mean, they had a lot more shots. I mean, what were the shots, Danny? Like 35-10 or something like that.
That was in the Oilers-Stars game.
Oh,
which was also crazy that the Oilers won that game off 10 shots.
But the third period of that Florida game, I don't know why I thought that game was the game with the insane amounts of shots, but the third period of that Florida game, they completely outplayed and shut the Rangers down. Like, it was genuinely impressive. Like, the Rangers only had 24 shots on goal. Panthers had 34. Sam Bennett is a hell of a fucking player. Like, that team is just built so well. It's really, 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 really hard to go against them. So, guts telling me Florida. So I guess I got to go with them. You know,
Florida is absolutely the smart pick. I mean, just surface level, they seem healthier at this point in the year than they were last year. Their path to the final was grueling. Not taking anything away from Edmonton's, but to shut down the top line of New York the way that they did, to shut down Boston the way that they did. They have, in my opinion, the better coach. They have the better goalie. Everything is pointing
everything points
Florida.
To them.
But it's just, I don't know. Edmonton does have those 2 cheat codes, man. That definitely could make this super interesting. I just want it to go 6 or 7. I would love it to go 7, personally.
That would be awesome. If that's a series that honestly seems like it probably will go to 7. If because like the way that it's going to be game 3, Edmonton breaks out, McDavid and Leon do their thing. Game 5, Florida comes back and only holds them to like 1 or 2 goals. I definitely feel like it's going to be that kind of series where it's just constantly back and forth until you end up at a game 7, and next team that plays the way that they should play, or the way that they do play. Like, Edmonton is just, if McDavid and Leon are going, then the Edmonton Oilers are going, and then if Florida is just shutting you down 2-1, it's extremely interesting because if it does get to a game 7, then the advantage kind of goes to Florida, because like Game 7s are usually those tight, extremely. I mean, the playoffs are already tight to begin with, but Game 7s are like extremely tight, defensive, usually 2-1 games. So if it does get to Game 7, that would be pretty wild. It'd be great for hockey too, like having especially a Canadian team. Like we didn't even talk about the possibility of the Canadian team winning the cup because how long was the drought? Like 15 years or something like that.
Oh, long.
Something
It says
pretty
93. That hasn't happened in our lifetimes
Wow.
at all.
Wow, that's crazy to really think about.
It is.
That would be pretty cool too, to see Edmonton finally break that quote unquote curse and win. That would be really fucking cool.
Another thing, dude, that Edmonton home crowd is fucking electric.
Awesome.
Every one of their home games, I have such a good time watching it. Like when the Stars pulled the goalie and they were trying to tie that game up, and like the clock is winding down and the fans are getting louder and louder, I was like, holy shit.
I was just going to mention that too. Like Florida was home when they won their game, right? Like I'm pretty sure they were.
They were, yeah. And Florida, don't get me wrong, Florida has generated more of a following than I've ever seen in my life. Like for as long as I can remember, Florida was like the laughing stock team that like the Flyers fans would take over, and there would only be like 200 Panthers fans in the building. But they got to follow you. There's tons of 19 jerseys in the crowd. They get loud. They throw the rats. Like they're definitely a fun market right now. But Edmonton's different, man.
Pretty much our entire childhood, Florida was bad until the last couple of years with them. Like you said, they were always the laughing stock of the league, and now they are probably the best team in the league on paper wise. Like just line 1 through line 4 and those defensive pairings, they're just. And then like the goalie too. I mean, Stolars is on Florida now, I'm pretty sure, and he's a solid backup. But like they have 2 fucking former Flyers as their goalies, and then a couple others. Like, is Nick Cousins playing right now? Because I don't remember seeing that dude playing at all in any of the games that I've watched.
Yeah, I can't quite remember either. He's definitely played like at some points during the playoffs. I just don't know if he played much the last series. But yeah, that is kind of funny, isn't it?
Gudis. They used to have Gudis. Like, not that they have him anymore, but like they used to have him. Like so many former Flyers have been on that team when they've been good. So it's like their defense: Forsling, Ekblad, Mikola, Montour, and then Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Kulikov. Like Kulikov was on Buffalo's first pair. I saw like a tweet by somebody. It was like an old lineup thing. It was like sometimes I just like going back and looking at old lineups from years ago, and it had Kulikov and Ristolainen as their first pair. And the quote was like, I don't know how this team never won a Stanley Cup because their forward lines were like insanely deep. Like that team had like Jack, Reinhart, and a couple other guys. And everybody replies was like, did you look at the defense? Did you see the first pair? Like it's fucking Dmitry Kulikov and Rasmus Ristolainen battling. It was pretty funny because the forward group was really, really good. And like they weren't fully developed to where they are now. But if they would have stuck with it, you never know what happens. You know what I mean? Like I get it. Like Buffalo as an organization has a really tough time turning that corner. But it is pretty cool to go back and look at things like that because that roster is loaded with so many players who are extremely good now that it's pretty funny to look back on.
Dude, Gustav Forsling is such a big game player. Holy shit.
And he just signed a really team-friendly contract, too.
Every game I see him making game-changing plays, it seems like.
He was on waivers, wasn't he, at one point? Yeah, Florida Panthers claimed defenseman Gustav Forsling off waivers. That was January 9th, 2021. Like, that's insane. He was 24 years old, and they claimed him off waivers from the Carolina Hurricanes. And now he's arguably one of the best defensemen in the league. That's actually fucking insane. Like, good for Florida. They've made so many good decisions that were high-risk decisions at the time. Like, the Tkachuk trade was really, really good. Like, I remember being on my phone when that first dropped and being like, that is an insanely good deal. You're trading Huberdeau, who had a career year, that was never going to do that again for a Matthew Tkachuk. Like, that trade is still. Let me look at that entire trade.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Uyghur went as well. Pretty sure.
Yes.
So like, yeah, that was a huge swing, and it was a hit, man. And good for that, because when you're a small market team like that, that's the kind of risks you need to take, I guess.
I remember being in the bar when they signed. Did they sign or trade for Sam Bennett? I kind of forget. They definitely traded for Reinhart, I think, from Buffalo. But Tkachuk was traded from the Florida Panthers to the Calgary Flames on Friday for Jonathan Huberdeau and defenseman Mackenzie Weegar. Yep. Which, I mean, Mackenzie Weegar's a very good defenseman, but looking back on it now, that trade, that's Florida wins that trade 10 times out of 10 now. Like, that is just an insanely good deal. And then look, we just said about Gustav Forsling on the waiver, so it should be a really, really fun Cup final. I'm looking forward to it. It's not like another reason why I'm actually excited about it, and I know Florida was in the Cup last year, but like, they haven't been good for decades. I really don't care that they've been in the Cup back-to-back years. I'm glad it's Edmonton. You know, I'm glad it's not fucking Vegas. I mean, Dallas could have made it again.
Dallas would have been cool. I like Dallas.
But I'm just glad it's not a team that we've been fucking watching win for the last how many years. You know what I mean? It's something new. Connor fucking McDavid in the Stanley Cup Finals, Leon Draisaitl. And then we can't forget Evan Bouchard. Like, he's one of the best defensemen in the league too. Like, that dude is an absolute stud. So it should be an extremely good series. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Florida attacks McDavid and Leon, and especially that power play. Like, Florida cannot put Edmonton on the power play. That scary, because I'm pretty sure Edmonton in the last game they played, like, they played well 5-on-5, but I mean, you saw McDavid's goal on the power play.
Jesus,
that was insane. Like, you just cannot put that team on the PP. So I'm really looking forward to that series. When's it start?
Saturday, I think.
8th. Wow.
Yeah, it's a big layoff from now to then. But it's great for the game, dude. McDavid versus Tkachuk. I mean, the NHL, I know they're terrible at marketing, but they should market the hell out of this thing, man. I know it's not like the biggest markets for American viewers, if you will. Like, it's not like a Rangers versus Colorado or something that, you know, the NHL would want. But if you're a fan of hockey, if you're a fan of the NHL, you should watch this one. This is a good one.
Oh, for sure. Even if you're not a fucking fan, like, I had my boy Conway hitting me up. Like, dude, I've been watching more playoff hockey this year than I have playoff basketball. And I can't blame you, because this playoff has been really fun, and this Stanley Cup final should be really fucking good. So everybody should be tuning in, even if you don't really like hockey. You know, like, hockey's that sport where, like, non-hockey fans can watch the play. Like, I've had so many people come up to me and talk to me about hockey and be like, I don't really watch, but when the playoffs are on, I'll flip it on because playoff hockey is the best. And I mean, I can't disagree with that. Like, it's a different game. It's a completely different game. And I just can't wait for this series. Fucking Saturday, 8:00 too. Like, it's a good start time. Like, even the layoff is pretty big. And I don't think we've mentioned the fact that, like, the distance between the stadiums, like, isn't it one of the biggest distances in the Stanley Cup final in a really long time? Like, they had to go all the way to Edmonton and then to Florida. Like, you know what I mean?
Has to be, yeah. Outside of, like, Vancouver.
Yeah.
Like, that probably would have been, like, a tad bit longer, but
yeah. You think that factors in?
You have to think so, right?
I mean, that's what I was saying. I was talking to my dad on the way to work today, and we were talking about it. I'm like, you have to think it affects. Like, do they? Hold on, let's check. Would they give how many days? So game 2 is Monday at 8, and then so they don't play for 2 days. They play Thursday, so they give them 2 days. That makes sense.
What, before traveling back to Edmonton?
Yeah, they're off. So game 2 is on Monday, and then Tuesday no game, Wednesday no game, Thursday game 3 in Edmonton. So they're giving them 2. So it might not affect as much as I thought.
I mean, if it goes 7 though, and you're talking about games 5, 6, 7, all bouncing between Edmonton, Florida, or like vice versa,
Yeah.
There's definitely going to be some, and they're at the end of a long playoff run. Both teams, just 2 months of grinding it out. Like this really is going to be a war of attrition coming up here.
It's another reason why I love NHL hockey playoffs in general. Like, it's a really long playoff. You like those guys when they win it, they deserve it hand over hand. You know,
It's the hardest trophy to win, but without a doubt in any sport. I guess like someone could debate that with me, but 2
I'd love to
months.
hear that.
There's first round matchups that are decent. I mean, not so much this year. There was quite a few blowouts this year, but you see it in the past. Like because the model is the second in the division plays the third in the division. There's really like you get series like Toronto Boston off the hop, where it's
Great series.
okay, so we're just going to war right away. Whereas basketball, you watch a team like the Celtics just coast by the entire East. Like that's not fun to me. Never will be fun to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you had the Rangers honestly had a kind of a cakewalk. I mean, they swept the Caps 4-0. They beat Carolina 4-2.
And they shouldn't have. I'll say that, dude. They got so I don't even want to say lucky because I feel like Carolina shot themselves in the foot. But Carolina is such a frustrating team because they really should have beat them, in my opinion. They were outplaying them, outscoring them 5-on-5. The Rangers seemed to get every bounce in overtime imaginable up until the Panthers series. That was frustrating to watch. They go down 3-0 and then still bring it back 2 games. And then they're up 3-1 in game 6, about to force a game 7. Like, if they just didn't fumble the first 3 games the way that they did. But that's the story with Carolina every year, it seems like. Like I said, they shoot themselves in the foot every year.
It's actually pretty funny to watch. Like, they're starting to become the new fucking Toronto Maple Leafs in a way for me. Like, I know they win rounds sometimes, but in terms of regular season, they're like dominant, and I have to hear about how like they're gonna win the cup and blah blah blah, and then they just, like you said, shoot themselves in the foot.
Let's get into the West playoffs a little bit. There's a couple of series I actually kind of wanted to go over. What were your thoughts on Edmonton, Vancouver?
Oh, that was probably the best series, and besides the Boston Toronto series, I think that was probably the second best series in the playoffs so far. I think Boston Toronto, Dallas Colorado was pretty good, even though it was 4-2, and then Vancouver Edmonton. I think Vancouver is going to be around for a while. Like that's a team that I think playoff experience. Like, you're going to have to take those wounds, you know what I mean, and then come back in a couple of years. But I think they're going to be one of those teams that just gets better as they go and get that experience. So that was a really good series. Like,
I was pulling for
I
them,
enjoyed
man.
watching it.
The way that they came back in game 1, they're on their 3rd string goalie. Brock Besser has to leave the series with a blood clot, right? Before game 6. Like, I feel like everything was just kind of tumbling downhill for them, and they still managed to claw their way into that game 7. I thought that was so impressive. I was pulling for them, but Edmonton, I don't hate either of the teams. I don't really love either of the teams either. So the winner, it is what it is. But it was fun to see Vancouver deep, because all these years I'm watching hockey, there's certain teams or certain organizations that I've just never seen in big games, including my own, to be honest with you.
I was just going to say, the Flyers?
Yeah. Like, I would love to see them get deep in a bracket for once, the Flyers, but it was cool to see a team like Vancouver get to a game 7 in the second round. It's cool to see a team like Florida do what they're doing, honestly. It brings back to the point that you were saying earlier, just having different teams in the mix. Like, it was, we're not seeing Tampa and the Penguins, and on the West we're not seeing Colorado steamroll everybody. Vegas. It was a really refreshing playoffs.
If you had to pick a team, and we'll get to the Flyers in a little bit, don't worry guys. If you had to pick a team, who do you think was the most disappointing in terms of like expectations heading into the playoffs, and then you watch the playoffs unfold and you were just like, hey, I had a little bit more expectations out of that team? Because I know who my pick is.
Probably Winnipeg.
Ooh, that's a good. It wasn't my pick, but that's a very good pick.
But that's that's coming with Winnipeg though. So like, I can say that, but I mean, we've said for years now how frustrating Winnipeg is. Like, me and you are kind of like, we're not fans of Winnipeg, but we pull for them. They're a team that it would be refreshing to see them go deep. The whiteout, the crowd, like they're kind of like an underdog Canadian city. It would be fun to see them go deep, but we kind of expected them to fall off a cliff the way they did.
How many years have I been pounding the table saying, if this keeps happening with Winnipeg, if they keep shitting the bed in the playoffs, they're going to blow that team up. And now I'm seeing Nikolai Ehlers rumors, and they might ship him. Not Blake Wheeler. Mark Scheifele. What happens with him? It's coming, dude. Like, that's actually a really good pick because it wasn't my pick. I had Nashville in terms of like how hot they were going into the playoffs, and then I thought Vancouver outplayed them for the majority of that.
Yeah, and they barely scored. Like they just couldn't score. That whole series sucked, to be honest with you. Like,
yeah, it did. Like they had. Yeah, you're right. Game 1, 4-2 Vancouver. Game 2, 4-2 Vancouver. Game 2, 4-1 Nashville. Game 3, 2-1 Vancouver. Game 4, 4-3 Vancouver. Game 5, 2-1 Nashville. Game 6, 1-0 Vancouver. So like Nashville was not scoring goals at all, bro. Like their highest goal total was 4, and that was in game 2. Like that's fucking embarrassing for a team that was. I mean, I didn't have them winning the fucking cup, but I had them at least playing. I had them doing what. Nah, I don't want to word it like that. I just expected a lot more out of Nashville. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I was giving them a little bit too much credit heading into the playoffs, but they were pretty disappointing for me. I'm not going to even say Toronto because like Toronto's Toronto, right? Like we expect that.
Dude, that was the most predictable shit ever. Losing in 7
and Washington getting fucking wiped by New York. Like,
dude, I forgot they were even
good. Like good. But you took the playoffs. I mean, they didn't take anything away from us. We pretty much handed it to them. But like, take the playoffs away from us, and you go and legitimately shit the fucking bed. Like they had zero business being in that playoff series.
Yeah, and Ovechkin clearly falling off a cliff. He did not show up whatsoever in that playoff series. Usually, at the very least, with Washington Capitals, you see Ovechkin get his. And I remember they put up a stat in like game 3 that was like, he doesn't even have a shot on goal yet. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, damn, they are shutting him down. And same with the Islanders. It was good to see them get dispatched briefly too.
It was. Yeah, I mean, that's your most hated team in the fucking league. I remember Flyers, Islanders game 7 at my house. You were just like, I fucking hate this team.
Yeah, and they beat us towards the end of April. And while we're on that downward spiral too, like I despise that team. I was so happy to see. I'm actually just mad that they even got that one Barzell OT winner, to be honest.
I know.
With you.
I did not want to see that at all, dude. I wanted them to. They didn't get swept, but I really wanted them to get swept.
Sorry, we'll take the better draft pick.
Oh, about Ovi real quick. Definitely falling off a cliff. Not falling off a cliff. They're relying on a 38-year-old to be their best player in the playoffs. Like, and even though he's an all-time great, the best goal scorer of all time, in my opinion, you're relying on a 38-year-old to carry you in the playoffs. Like who else is in like TJ Oshie isn't the player who he used to be. The fucking Tom Wilson, like you know what I mean? Like he still had 31 goals this year in the regular season, but
started slow too.
He did. Do you think he breaks the record?
I do actually. I think that's the problem with Washington and Ovi as a whole. I think they're just. It seems like he's just there for the record at this point, and it seems like the organization, because of their long-standing loyalty with him, are trying to see it through with him. He won a cup there. He's the best player in the franchise history. He's probably the best goal scorer of all time. And so I feel like it does him a disservice though, because Washington should start ripping this thing down and trying to be bad and rebuilding from the ground up. But it just seems like they're just trying to play for a record at this point, a goal record. They're playing for that moment, that night. I don't know when it's going to be, but the night he breaks the record and there's a big celebration. It seems like after that night is when they're going to start to move forward with their organizational plans. But it's a tough spot though, because as a Washington fan, you probably would want to see that through with Ovechkin. You're probably pulling for that. I know, like like for instance, like Claude Giroux. Like I would have gone to war for that guy until his career ended, and he's nowhere near the player Ovi is. But yeah, I don't know, man. Washington's in that weird in between area.
Speaking of fucking Giroux, free him from Ottawa, dude. They just signed. They just hired Mike Yeo to be an assistant coach over there. That dude's having deja vu. I feel fucking bad, dude. Like, and there's rumors coming out like they might trade a couple of guys too. Like, I have no idea what the fuck's going on with Ottawa. But I did have a question for you relating to the Flyers. I know we are 20 minutes into this podcast, 25 minutes into this podcast, and we haven't talked about the Flyers once. Marty Necas has been a topic of discussion on Flyers Twitter for a solid month now, I think, especially with Derek and me and a couple other guys on Twitter. What are your thoughts on him possibly coming over? Because we saw not coming over, but getting traded. Because we saw Anthony DeMarco this morning. I quote tweeted it. Twitter also, real quick, Twitter's been fucking weird. Has anybody else been getting their tweets deleted randomly? Like, some of my tweets aren't showing up on the timeline, which is extremely weird.
Like the tweets you tweet out or something you see on your timeline?
The tweets that I tweet out won't pop up on my timeline for a solid hour. And even now, I quote tweeted Anthony DeMarco this morning because he tweeted something out about Necas. And now I legitimately can't fucking... Did he delete it?
I think your tweet would still be up, though.
My tweet would still be up because it would just say... Yeah, here we go. Anthony DeMarco, our guy, tweeted out today at 9:45 a.m. Amid the ongoing speculation around Marty Necas, it sounds like Carolina is telling interested teams that the goal is to sign and keep him as of this morning. And then Frank Cervalli yesterday, 6/3/24, said on his podcast, DFO Pod. It was a tweet by somebody who said he said it on that podcast. I wouldn't be shocked to see Necas dealt before game 1 on Saturday. So we have, on one spectrum, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets dealt before game 1 on Saturday. And then the next, you got Ant saying, well, I'm not saying either of these guys are wrong, by the way. Just saying this is what we have in front of us. You got Ant saying that Carolina is now telling teams the goal is to sign him and keep him. Do you think that's just a tactic by Carolina to get a little bit more value out of him? Like, hey, trying to tell teams, oh, yeah, he's staying here. Offer a little bit more, and maybe he won't, kind of thing.
Yeah, dude. We know how Carolina is. They play hardball with everything. And it's part of the reason why they've been so...
They do. They're cheap as fuck.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it like that, but yeah, they are. They are cheap as fuck.
I will. They haven't paid so many dudes, right? And they have... I mean, not that they're going to sign Max Comtois to an extension, but Seth Jarvis is a restricted free agent. Necas is a restricted free agent. Jake Gensel is an unrestricted free agent. Martin Hook is an unrestricted free agent. Teuvo Teravainen, unrestricted free agent. Stefan Nosen, unrestricted free agent. Brady Shea, unrestricted free agent. Brett Pesce, UFA. Tony DeAngelo, UFA, but who gives a fuck about him? Jalen Chatfield, UFA, and then Dylan Coughlin, RFA. They have a ton of guys to re-sign. So I really don't think Necas is going to be a hurricane come in a couple weeks, to be honest with you, especially around draft time. But the whole I've seen people throw out the idea TK for Necas trade, and I just don't see Carolina taking on a guy who needs to be paid next year. You know what I mean? I would love for that trade. I think that would make I think it would make sense from a Flyers perspective, but from a Carolina Hurricanes perspective, you're trading a guy away who's younger, arguably better, has more playoff points than TK. We're just gonna have to sign. You know what I mean? You're just gonna have to sign him anyway. So why wouldn't you just keep him? So it's interesting to me because I would love Necas on the team, but I just don't see how a trade to Carolina involving Konecny would work out in terms of Carolina wanting to pay Konecny. You know what I mean? We saw a rumor with Konecny that he wants $10 million. I know it's probably not where the number is going to end off, but it's interesting. It's really interesting with that.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you have the local reporter, Anthony DeMarco, saying that the Flyers have been in contact with them, and
Yep.
and then you have the national guy also tweeting out conflicting reports. Like, I just think it's a classic negotiation tactic, playing hardball.
Using the media, huh?
Yeah, like you said, they're cheap as shit, man. Like, they want to extract the most value out of everyone they have, and in all the transactions they make, they're really analytics driven in that regard. Like it, but do I want Marty Necas? Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
I believe that was your original question. Yeah, I would absolutely love that. I mean, Carolina doesn't even let him play his natural position, right?
No, he wasn't playing center under Brendan Moore's extremely strict man-on-man defense. So I think getting him back into his natural position, and even if he isn't a true 1C, like having him on Michkov's wing would, in my opinion, turn him into a 1C. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't have to be it himself, but having a guy like that next to him is just going to accumulate points. But in terms of, age, he's younger. I think he's an extremely good skater. He's powerful. Like, if you didn't watch him in the Worlds, go back and watch some of his game. He was pretty dominant there. I would like it. I'm not slamming on the table for him, and I'm not giving up a king's ransom for him, but I think it would be a pretty good ad in terms of, I just like the fact that Danny's out here calling and trying to upgrade the team and just getting, you know what I mean? Just getting out there and seeing what's available, seeing what the market's like. I like the fact that we're already hearing rumors that he's sticking his nose in there. You know what I mean? It's nice to hear that they actually are in on talent and not two-way guys who's going to bring a culture. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of refreshing hearing that they're involved with that.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't until the other day when I looked him up when I realized just how young he really is.
Yeah, he's young.
It just feels like I've seen him in so many big games for so long that I kind of thought he was a little bit old. I didn't think he was like a vet or anything, but I kind of thought he would be around TK's age. And that's, like you said, he's younger. One thing with Carolina and why they might do it is he's up this year, right? His contract's up this year. Konecny still has one more, right?
He does. Yep.
Maybe we know how they have just a constant revolving door over there. Maybe they would
trade him for a year, use him for a year, and then ship him.
Exactly. And then maybe they do the sign and trade that I spoke about last episode. It just seems like a Carolina sort of move. We have had relations with them in the past, and it could happen.
Yeah, with the fucking D'Angelo trade, we traded D'Angelo back to them, and then we couldn't do it, so we had to wait till a certain period.
Yeah, that year-long transaction.
Yeah. Let's speak about Igor Zamula, because he's honestly a pretty interesting topic. Today I saw a rumor. I think I read it to you about how his agent tweeted today that Philadelphia they're beginning to have talks about re-signing Zamula. So he's a 24-year-old defenseman who, I think you could say he was pretty inconsistent last year. But unless that's a fucking 5-year deal, I don't think I'm going to be too mad at them bringing a defenseman back who can play both sides. So I think that's a pretty solid signing. I'm wondering if we hear about Erik Johnson getting re-signed. I hope not. I hope he just. It sounds like this sounds like something like a dickish thing to say, but I kind of hope he walks out to the sunset and retires. You know, like him and Stahl. I think it's time to hang the skates up. But what are your feeling on Zamula potentially getting re-signed? Because I think there's a lot of like conflicting opinions on Flyers Twitter from at least what I saw.
I actually would like it. Because when you see the flashes of, maybe not greatness, but when you see like the good flashes from him, they are good. Like he's genuinely. He has all the tools, and he's played under 100 NHL games. Like, I think this year was his first actual real stint of playing consistently. Was it not?
Yeah, and this was his first actual look in the NHL for sure.
And yeah, he finished. I got his stats right here. It was +3, 5 goals, 16 assists, 21 points, and he played 66 games this year and has 92 career games. So this was really his first crack at it. I mean, we see this with defensemen all the time, just like the rough patches they go through. We saw it with Provorov before he kind of broke out a little bit, then eventually fell off a cliff. But you remember with Provorov, like his rookie year was a little up and down, and then he had that great second year. Kind of saw a little bit of that with York as well. Kind of hit a wall a little bit under his 100-game mark, and then seemed to figure it out. Oh, I like him, dude. He's 6'3". He has all the tools. He can move the puck. Yeah, he's an RFA, so the money will be right. I like it. I think it.
I'm never going to complain. I'm never going to complain about bodies on the back end, especially cheap, because Zamula's not going to be demanding anything crazy. And I mean, not for nothing, he's Russian, and I think we have a Russian coming over hopefully in a couple of weeks. So having a guy that can sit there and kind of hang out with Michkov, because he's still 24, still a young kid, speaks Russian, so they can hang out. Like, I think, not that that's like the main reason they're re-signing him, but I mean, shit, I would re-sign him. It doesn't hurt. I would personally re-sign him just for that. Like, I don't give a fuck at all. I think Andrea is going to be pushing for a spot next year. Adard played a lot this year. Ginning, we'll see what happens with him. I mean, I've heard rumors that he's going back to the SHL. He's a restricted free agent. So it's interesting. Like, there's a lot of guys on the back end. Like, they're huge on Hunter McDonald. Oliver Bonk we'll talk about him in a little bit with the Memorial Cup. He'll go back to juniors. Emo Andre, I just mentioned. I think he'll fight for a spot. Adard, Ginning. Yeah, like, there's a lot of guys on the back end that, whether or not they're here in a couple of weeks or they use one of those guys I just mentioned in a trade, a draft day trade, whatever it is, there's a lot of defensemen, Danny, but I don't mind re-signing a 24-year-old who's not going to ask for a lot of money and speaks Russian when I have a potential superstar Russian coming over soon. So, yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. I like it.
That youthful competition is healthy on the back end.
It is.
It's much better than what we've seen in years past, where they go out and get these shitty veterans that we're all tired of seeing. Like, I would love to see, that healthy youthful competition. And if we do re-sign them, you'd have Michkov, Russian forward, Zamula, Russian defenseman, and Fedotov, Russian goalie. Mm-hmm. They can form it like their own little clique in the locker room, speak Russian, joking Russian to each other. I'm all for it, dude.
Exactly. I like it. Even Kolosov, and he's not Russian, he's Belarus. How do you say it?
Belarusian?
Yeah, something like that. Even him, like, and just to bring up real quick, I don't know, somebody who's listening, let me know who it was, but I saw on Twitter that Bobby Brink might be getting extended this summer. I thought that was pretty interesting. Not that I thought they were going to be trading Brink away or anything like that, but that right side is pretty deep. 22 years old. He's an RFA. Wow. Why am I sitting here thinking that he had a year left on his deal? No, Bobby Brink is an RFA, so obviously they will be re-signing him this summer. I'm sorry.
But even that solidifies even more so the fact that Konecny should go, huh? Like,
yeah, like, my thing with Konecny, and shout out to everybody who was upset that Derek wouldn't be on this podcast talking about Konecny. He will be on 111 to give everybody his Konecny rant. But my thing with him is, it's not about the player. And I mean, we've talked about this on 109. It's not about the player. It's about the depth on the right side, the age that he is, the money that he's commanding. He's been playing first-line minutes on the power play, on the PK with Lawton. He's been getting all the minutes and was on pace for, I think, 70-ish points before he got hurt. Like, a guy who is getting number one minutes and usage is scoring around 60 to 70 points on average. Sometimes, I mean, a couple of years ago, he had a little bit less than that, but I just don't think it makes sense to hand a guy $8-9 million when your deepest position on the team is right wing, and then you have Michkov potentially coming over on top of that. I think trading him for a center or assets in the draft to move up. I heard rumors that Danny possibly might move up because they really like Yzerman on Twitter. Don't hold me to that, but it's not a personal thing with Konecny. He's a solid hockey player, but I just don't think you hand that kind of money to a guy who's probably a second liner on a cup contending team. And especially with the depth, I just don't think it makes sense personally.
Yeah, I agree. We spoke about it last episode.
We did.
He's not warranting of that kind of money, and like you said, it's not personal. Like, I love Konecny. I loved his time here. I love his dagger goals, his top shelf goals. Like, I do enjoy watching the player.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it really is nothing personal. But like you said, right wing we have an abundance of right wing. That's like our only thing that we got going for us right now is fucking right wing. So
I know. Like, we have dudes on the right wing that are getting thrown over to the left side. That's how fucking deep we are over there. Like, fucking Owen Tippett. I'm not even going to mention Cam Atkinson. That dude better be fucking. I don't even know how he's going to be gone because I don't want to. I don't think buying his contract out makes sense. I've seen rumors about potentially buying him out. So I honestly just think you're not trying to win anything this year. You don't need the cap space. Let him fucking sit in the press box or on the fourth line and let him ride that deal out. But Tippett, Konecny, Hathaway, Tyson Forrester, and we already know Dennis Gurianov is leaving. He's not resigning. So, and then you got Brink too, and then possibly Michkov. So it's just a fucking ton of depth, dude. Just a ton of depth. And then Samu Tuamala, who's in the AHL. I'm not saying he's going to be on the team next year, but I mean he's in the pipeline. Just a lot, like I said, and I just don't think it makes sense. I'm really interested to see what happens with this in the draft, man. Like I've said it on Twitter before. I think something spicy happens. I don't think they're going to go crazy, but like for you, Danny, what would you consider a perfect offseason? Like, what would they have to do for you to sit on this podcast in September and be like, love the offseason?
It really might just boil down to Yzerman and a top line center, to be honest with you. Obviously, I would probably want some filler additional. I just can't pinpoint what those would be in my head. But let's say if it didn't fit, maybe like a Chychrun type of player and Yzerman alongside Michkov coming over. That's the biggest thing, of course. It's Michkov coming over. But I would really like them to do the center thing if it made sense. Like, I don't want to just sit here, like you said, smash the table and like demand that they bring me a Martin Necas or Trevor Zegers if they're just getting bent over at the negotiation. Like if it fits, I would like them. Well, you said perfect. So yeah, my perfect would be a top line center and Yzerman. My heart's kind of set on him. Not gonna lie to you. Or Yzerman, Catton, Dickinson, like any one of those guys that fall.
Lane is too.
Yeah, we've been seeing him circling around the timeline a lot this week. It seems like I feel like I see his name so much.
He's a good player, dude. And speaking of him, real quick, sorry to cut you off, but JCEEZZ on Twitter. He's a follower of ours. I just don't know how to say your name, Jay. I'm just going to call you Jay, brother. According to ASF, is that Anthony Sanfilippo? I think it is. He's heard the Flyers scouted Konsta Helenius pretty good. Knows they like Cole Yzerman too. May move up a couple spots for Yzerman because he heard Buffalo really likes him too, and they pick 11th. Expect Danny to be very active at the draft, and that was from Snow the goalie. Shout out to them. So that's pretty interesting. That was what I was talking about a little earlier when I saw something on Twitter about how Danny might be moving up for a guy because he knows that Buffalo likes him. So you got Konsta Helenius, who is a center at heart, and then Cole Yzerman that we know that they like. If they move up for Cole Yzerman, Danny, I will fucking shit myself. He's a dude at 12 that has an elite trait elite trait. Like that dude scores goals, and to have that on top of Michkov would be fucking. I mean, I don't think we would have two shooters like that in a really long fucking time. I'm trying to think back to when we would have had two. I mean, I know like they're still NHL prospects that haven't played a game in the NHL, and I'm sitting here gassing them up, but I mean, those two dudes, Michkov and Yzerman, have like broken records scoring goals. It's just those two guys as Flyers prospects would be fucking insane.
Yeah, it kind of fills a hole too after the departure of Cutter Gauthier, because I feel like for so long we were kind of
Who?
dead set. William.
Yeah, William.
I feel like
Derek.
I feel like for so long we were kind of dead set on that duo of Michkov, who's just kind of all around generational, and a goal scoring specialist, a sniper to pair alongside him. And we were really excited about that for so long. So now that the rumors of Yzerman are surfacing, and that my heart's kind of set on that. I would like to see a top line of Yzerman, whoever the fuck, Michkov. That would be pretty fun to me. But I'm glad that that's happening, because I believe I mentioned it last episode that I know we only had one draft under Danny Briere to kind of work with, but one thing he did do well in the Michkov draft was just kind of feeling out the board, feeling out what other organizations wanted, and he thought it'd be best to stay where he was, not move up. But we know he was considering moving up to get Michkov if that needed to be the case. Obviously, the asking price would have been too high, probably wouldn't have happened. But I like that he has a mind for this sort of thing, and just kind of if he's getting the sense that Buffalo wants him, then I do feel like he's gonna try to attack that.
I love the idea of an Yzerman Michkov top line with literally anybody in between them. That sounds fucking absolutely insane. But at the same time, I think a Konsta Helenius next to a Michkov, like how Konsta might be the smartest person in the draft in terms of hockey IQ and just smart in general. Like that kid sees the game at a different level. Got really good skill, nothing over the top, doesn't jump out at you like a McKinnon or anything like that. But in terms of just hockey IQ and taking pucks off walls and making the right play, finding soft areas in the cycle, like the kid, and for a smaller kid, he positions himself along the boards, and when he's up against a forechecker extremely well, positions his body, leverages himself, and kind of does that backwards hit that Voracek used to do when he'd be in the corners. Like he does a little bit of that where he jumps into the guy, kind of gives himself space and picks up pucks differently because he knows a guy's coming. He's just an extremely smart kid who angles himself extremely well. So I think having him next to Michkov, like having two brilliant minds, hockey minds next to each other, and then one of those guys being a true center. Like we named Catton, who has questions about being a left wing. I mean, about being a center in the NHL. And I don't think any of those other top centers like Lindstrom are going to be there at 12. But having two guys like that, like I said, with extremely high hockey IQs would be, if Konsta wouldn't, same thing with like Necas. Like I think Michkov would turn Konsta into a 1C not by default, but I mean it's I think Konsta would be able to play. Not everybody can play with superstars. I know we joke about that a lot. Like I remember when people called Jake Gensel like he's only good because of Crosby. Like no, it's hard to play with superstars. It's not easy, and I think Konsta would be just a perfect fit next to Michkov. Like there's a lot of attractive options in this draft, Danny. Like the fact that they're in rumors to trade up. If they just stand pat, they're going to get a really good player. Like either way, unless it's Carter Yamachuk, I'm going to be extremely happy, Danny.
I have to agree with you there, man. They have nothing but assets to work with. If they want to go out and get what they want, like you said, they could just stand pat if they think that someone who's high on their list. And I kind of trust I just trust Flair at the end of the day.
I do. I think he's one of the most impressive dudes in the front office. I was just talking to Derek about that a couple of days ago. Like, I don't think he gets the props he deserves for doing what he does. He's generally one of the smartest people in the organization. I really love listening to him talk about the prospects. It's extremely fun. Real quick, because I did ask you what your perfect offseason would be. I want to say what my perfect offseason would be. Getting one of those guys we just mentioned in the draft, shipping Lawton away, packaging Konecny and maybe Florida's pick for something, whether it's draft asset or a player, maybe moving a couple guys to get out from under a couple of contracts. But other than that, like if they just get rid of Lawton, package Konecny up with something and get rid of him, draft somebody that we've all wanted, Mitch Kyle comes over, like that's a pretty solid offseason for me. Let the young guys go next year, like build and build and build. So that would be my perfect offseason. And I don't even think that's unattainable either. I think that's a pretty fair ask. Like, hey, I'll offload some dudes, get Lawton the fuck out of here, package connecting up with somebody, and bring me a stud at the draft. Like, I think that's pretty
yeah, it's realistic. 100%. Actually, and from what we've seen, it is their thinking.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's true.
24 days away, brother. It's getting closer by the day. There's so many rumors too. Like you've seen, like we just talked about how like the Marty Nietzsche's thing, whether he stays, whether he's going to get traded. Like we've seen two conflicting reports. We're finally getting to that time, bro. We're finally getting to the time where you gotta be on Twitter all the time. You never know what's gonna happen. I'm like, when's the fucking Michkov news gonna happen? It's June 4th, man.
That trumps everything. I mean, I could sit here talk about like who I want to acquire, offload, but at the end of the day, Michkov just trumps everything. I mean, everybody's watching all 82 as soon as that announcement drops. Like we're watching all 82 anyway, but I mean, like the people who normally would watch like 40 games, they're now gonna watch 82. And the building's going to be season ticket packages are going to be selling off the rack just because of him. And I'd be here for it, man. I'd be here for a whole season of that, regardless of how it ends. Just watching him develop and grow and play in North America would just be so like too much fun, honestly.
Every sign, Danny, and I know we talked about Michkov at length last episode, but every sign points to him coming over this year. And I'm not trying to get too ahead of myself, but in terms of the interviews that we've heard, all of that, I really do think that kid's going to be here this summer. And especially, like, I know a lot of people have, like, I don't know if you saw it, the BR Instagram account tweeted out and Michkov liked it. Like, I personally don't think that's just nothing. Like, I've seen a lot of people just kind of like shoot that off, like, oh, it's just him liking an Instagram post, whatever. I don't. Like, I mean, that's an insanely important Instagram post just to be liking as Matej Michkov. Am I wrong for that? Like, check me if I'm wrong for that. You can tell me.
No, I don't think you're wrong for that. But even more so important, I think, is just the quotes coming out of SKA's higher ups, like top to bottom. They're showing an openness to this that we haven't seen in the past. And I think it's even more apparent when you look at a guy like Ivan Demidov and the quotes for him. Like the quotes that you're seeing for him are very hardball, politician, classic Russian quotes coming out. Like, don't expect him to come over. Like just the same shit that you were seeing
under contract
Michkov last year, but now you're not seeing it with Michkov. Like there's an openness. I mean, dude, Rottenberg himself.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go next. Like, sorry to cut you off, but the Medvedev interview was one thing. Like, hearing that from the chairman, cool. But the fact that we heard from Rottenberg himself, and he didn't deny anything, didn't confirm, which you can't legally, but he didn't deny. Like, he didn't shut it down. Like you said, he shut down the Ivan Demidov rumors. Like, somebody asked about him. Like, do you think he comes over a little bit earlier? And shot right back with, no, he has a contract with us. And he didn't say that with Michkov, man. Like, I don't think I'm crazy here. Like, I genuinely think that kid's going to be a flyer in a couple of weeks, and it's going to be fucked. Like, Twitter, it might be the craziest time on Twitter we've ever seen. I mean, we've been on there since 2019. That's when we started this podcast. It might be the craziest fucking time we've ever seen, generally.
Dude, absolutely. Like, his quote was along the lines of, an announcement on Michkov will be made soon. We're sorting out the legality of it.
Yeah, like that's
what
not them.
what does that mean? Because he's under
Yeah.
contract for 2 more years. So what legality are you sorting out? Like, what legal issue would you be sorting out? The only thing would be a buyout.
All of this over the last month just for them to turn around and be like, he's coming back to SKA. I just don't fucking see it. I just don't think you put everybody through all of this just to turn around and be like, yeah, he's coming back. Maybe it happens. Maybe they turn around and he's going to come back for 1 more year, but next year he'll get out a year early out of his contract. I would even be okay with that. Just the fact that we're getting this news, that we're seeing in these interviews is just awesome in terms of the relationship between SKA and us. And the idea of him coming over is getting more real and real as the days go by. And like you said, man, it's going to turn people who didn't watch the team to diehards. Like, that kid is going to change the landscape of Flyers hockey. It might not happen day one. Like, people will get excited, don't get me wrong. But in terms of changing the landscape of hockey in Philly, it's going to take a couple of years. But I think he's going to be that guy. He's going to be that Bryce Harper type personality for the Philadelphia Flyers. Like, he has that type personality as well. So extremely exciting, man. Like, I can't sit here and talk about it too much because we just be repeating ourselves. But I mean,
it is the talk of the summer. Man.
It is Matvei Michkov, right? Like,
it's the biggest time of our fandom.
Easily. I mean, for us personally, yeah. I mean, especially in the last 10 years, this is definitely. I mean, just the idea of a 19-year-old Russian kid coming over to the United States is like the biggest thing that I've personally been involved with in Flyers land since I've been following since like 8 years old. So
it doesn't just change the landscape of the Flyers; it changes the landscape of the league and the Eastern Conference, man. Like, we already get 20 to 25 national TV games a year, and we have nobody on the team, nobody marketable, and we're still
Konecny.
Yeah, we're still put on prime time at least 20 times a year, even though we have nobody. Could you imagine what ESPN, TNT, ABC could do with Michkov playing like a Crosby in a primetime game, a Bedard? Like, just, dude, you can go down the list, man. Like,
that fucking Flyers Chicago first game is going to be fucking insane, dude. It's going. I hope that game is in Philadelphia.
And then you have the Cutter Gauthier versus Matvei Michkov game. Like, that would just be an entire year of storylines.
It would be. It would be, dude. Like you said, I mean, it's a really good point. It really would change the entire landscape of the NHL, because what were we talking about a while ago? And this might not ring your bell, but remember we were talking about national games and like no team really, not that I'm saying that they get scared, but no team really goes into a game, oh, we got to stop that guy over there in Philly. Like, having a national broadcast of like the announcers just swooning over Michkov, that would be really fucking cool to finally see a superstar just get talked about a lot on a national broadcast in Philly. Would be a really, really cool thing to see, because I haven't seen it since like Prime G.
Yeah, I'm gonna eat it all up, dude. Every graphic they put up, every single monologue they go on about like Michkov versus, but yeah, 100%, man. They're gonna repeat themselves all year, and I'm gonna listen to it and be like, facts. Like, I can't wait for it.
Talk about the jersey sales alone from when he comes over. Like, I'm gonna personally be at Dick's with a fucking Flyers jersey in my hand, asking the people over there to stitch 39 on for me. It's gonna be nuts.
I know we've been a joke for so long, but this is still Philadelphia, man. We've seen it with the Phillies, how they had a decade of poverty, barely selling, and then what do you know? Just like that, they're the loudest stadium in baseball. They sell tons of merch, tons of tickets, and I feel like it'll be just the same for the Flyers. A lot of current players, current young fans, especially of other teams like the Penguins. Like, I know it's easy to dunk on us, oh, the loser Flyers, no cups in 75. But when we get a guy like this and we eventually get the proper team around him, you're going to see a revival, a resurrection unlike any other fan base in the entire league.
Yeah. Yeah, I need you on the hype video, dude, for when he comes over.
Oh, that will 100% happen. As soon as that announcement is made, it's getting cooked up. It might release before, because I think last year I did it like right before game 1. This one might be like July, man. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be too excited when the announcement hits and after the draft.
I just can't believe that we're actually talking about the possibility of it, man. Like, I don't want to get into it again, but like it's just I'm not gonna fully come to terms with it until he's on a power play, fucking ripping shots from the wall. You know, like it's still kind of like I still watch the fucking draft every now and again. Like, I was just watching it 2 days ago, like the entire draft, like the picks 1 through 9. I'll sit there and watch the entire thing like it's live. Just to embrace myself.
That feeling that I had as soon as I heard from St. Petersburg or the KHL, Matt, the feeling that I felt in my heart and my chest was as if we just won a game 7 of the ECF. Like, but because in my entire fandom, I've never experienced a feeling like that. I mean, obviously 2010, 2012 were fun years, but I was 10 and 12 years old. So like I wasn't like able to soak it in and appreciate the moment or like the gravity of the situation as much. So this was my Stanley Cup. Like that moment was my holy shit. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel now, because for years we were just like, dude, how do we get back to relevancy here? Like everything just seemed to be crumbling down. This franchise's stock was just crumbling down year after year. And as soon as that moment happens, you as a fan, you can envision like greatness. You can envision, oh, we might win something one day, or we're at least going to be in the big game one day. Yeah. And it changed everything, and it will continue to change everything.
There will be big playoff games at Wells Fargo Center again. There will be a sea of orange again, burnt orange. Like we've talked about Michkov in the playoff game with that crowd going burnt orange. Like that's all I want to see, man. Like I get emotional even talking about it. Like seeing that again with Michkov on the ice is just going to be a different type of experience, man. And the fact, I'm going to run this by you. This sounds crazy. This is just me talking out of my ass. But, and I know you don't know too much about Konsta Helenius. I'm sorry I keep butchering his name if I am. But somebody out there listening, Derek, I don't give a fuck if it's you, if it's somebody else, Jay, I don't care. How crazy is it to throw out there that the kid's NHL ready? Could he play NHL games next year? Now, if he gets drafted by us, it really wouldn't make much sense to throw an 18-year-old kid out there, because, I mean, it's not like we're trying to compete for anything, but I think he might be, besides Malcolm Celebrini and maybe Lev Zushov, the defenseman from Michigan State, other than those two guys, I think he might be one of the most pro-ready players in the draft. So how crazy is it to say we might have Helenius and Michkov both in the lineup opening night? Just don't know out there.
Yeah, I just wonder if the Flyers would do that, like you said, just given the timeline. Like,
hey, Coots did it.
He did. You're right, and look how that worked out. Worked out completely fine. Some players are just built for it, man. Like off rip, and some aren't, and that's fine. And I think fan bases should be more accepting of that. But when a guy's ready, he's ready, man.
I need it, bro. I need it. 24 days away. Draft is coming up. Rumors are starting to now. Hey, we're back on the pod every week. Like things are starting to get rolling again, bro.
It's crazy how a month from today, the entire complexity of this organization could be different.
July 4th.
It's insane to think about, man. This is the calm before the storm, really. It really is.
And that's the title of the episode. Right there. Danny just said it. I love it.
Should we keep riffing or?
I don't know. Do you want to? Like, I mean, I could keep talking. I don't know how many people want to listen to us just sitting here bullshitting. But
Yeah, because now we're getting into like future playoff games and that's always fun to talk
I'm
about.
talking about fucking Konsta playing in the NHL next year. Like we're starting to get out there a little bit.
Dude, it's hard not to have your mind go to that though. Like when you get a player like Michkov, that's where your mind goes. Like I've seen it. I've seen the Toronto Maple Leafs be a laughingstock loser organization. And yes, I know it's kind of funny to bring them up because they're not really the model of success as of right now. But I saw a complete 180 of that organization as soon as a player like Matthews, as soon as a player like Marner touched down in the organization. Just how like that storm, you saw it rising up in their rookie years and how they eventually just propelled them into a playoff spot. And yeah, they haven't done much with that playoff spot, but
no,
it still would be fun to be a part of a rise like that, like a rise of a good young core that one day could break through.
No, I think you make a really good point with that because in terms of the complexity of the organization, it completely changed when Austin Matthews became a Maple Leaf. And I think it's a pretty safe comparison to make because it's not like the Flyers are going to be built the way the Toronto Maple Leafs are built. Like they're not going to have 4 guys making $10+ million and Tavares, Nylander, Matthews, and Marner. So I think it's a pretty good comparison because I absolutely that team. I mean, like, they were still the Toronto Maple Leafs, just like how the Flyers are still the Philadelphia Flyers. But when they got him, the national attention obviously was going to come. But everybody was talking about that guy, everybody, and to see how that franchise went from, like you said, irrelevant to relevant, not as relevant as they probably would like to be, but that guy completely changed everything there in terms of just like excitement, bringing in like viewers, everyone watching. Haven't really had success yet, but yeah, I think that's a pretty good comparison because I think Michkov, like I already said, is just gonna the Bryce Harper of Philadelphia. Like I could see if the kid had no personality, I wouldn't be saying that, but like he has a great personality, and he's gonna be. He reminds me of somebody who's just like, I'm good. I'm that good. Try to stop me. You know what I mean? Like he just has that kind of fucking attitude, and I just love it. I think it's a perfect fucking fit for Philadelphia. And I was watching the draft I was watching, and they were interviewing Briere right after the pick, and they were talking. Emily Kaplan was the girl that I was fucking trying to think about last episode. She was the one who was interviewing players and GMs after the draft, not after the draft, like after their pick and stuff. And she asked Briere, like, what did Michkov tell you that sold you guys? And I remember him just being like, he just wanted to be a Flyer. He was just like extremely adamant on wanting to be here and be part of this, and how excited he was to be there. Like once he got drafted when they were talking, and then like a little clip of Briere and Michkov like talking, Briere patting Michkov on the back, and then all you hear Michkov say, "Oh, yes, thank you," like in English. I'm like, oh shit, he knows English too. Like I know he's not there in terms of speaking it without a translator because he doesn't want to do it until he's completely 100% fluent. But like hearing him be like talking in English and shit, like I don't know, maybe it's just like it's the Flyers fandom in me, but like that's fucking awesome. Like, that's so cool to see.
Yeah, because as soon as you draft a guy like that, it comes with a million uncertainties. And from what we've seen from draft night until right now is uncertainties becoming certain, and just the clearing of the fog and just getting clarity that he wants to come over here and he will come over here. And everything that we dreamed of on draft night is going to come true.
Speak it into existence, Danny.
Dude, the dominoes have fallen, man. They have. I said it last episode. There's so many ways this could have went south for us. And it just seems like it's not going to. It seems like it's going to actually fucking happen. And it's insane to think about. And we're just patiently waiting for the end of June now. That's really all it is. Like, I feel like every day I get up and I'm like, okay, it's like today, it's June 4th. It's June 4th. They said an announcement would be made by the end of June. Okay. I got a couple weeks left.
Was
everything
it the end
revolves
of June?
around this. Yeah, I think it was.
Oh man, I thought they just said June. Why did I forget they said end of June? That's fucking shitty, dude.
Well, they said by the end of June. It's something. It could happen June fucking 15th for all we know.
Yeah, true. That could happen on the fucking on draft night, dude. It'd be like the Flyers are about to pick, and all you see the lights turn off, and just Michkov walking up to the podium in a Flyers jersey to make the fucking pick, dude. In English too, in full English. It'd be fucking awesome.
that would be some WWE shit, and I would love
Yeah,
it.
I know. Me and Derek have been talking about, laughing about that stuff. Like game one of the season, just the lights go out. It's Michkov walking out from the fucking locker room.
It's number 39.
Oh yeah, what number do you think? I'm not even gonna get into that. Let's not get too. He's not even here yet.
All right, we won't get into it, but I will say that 39 works. It works.
Does. That or something in the 90s for a Russian guy. I feel like always works.
Guy could wear fucking 45 for all I care. Or he could wear fucking, he could wear some ugly ass 76. He could wear some ugly ass number, and he'll just make it look good.
Not the Cam York rookie number, bro. 45.
You know what I'm saying, though. He would make any number suddenly look good. Just like how every player that wore 91 makes 91 look good. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just...
Well, he's Matvei Michkov, dude. For sure. He would make any number go crazy. Like, that would be like probably the top 3 best-selling jersey on the fucking market when he does come over. I don't think people are even talking about that. Like, in terms of just jersey sales. Even from, like, non-Flyers fans. Like, you're going to have a fucking extremely big fandom over in Russia for him alone, and then just people in the NHL who like Matvei Michkov, who want to watch a superstar play hockey. Like, you're gonna have that too. So it's exciting, man. It's really cool to have a guy like that potentially come over.
I'll say this: it'll be the first authentic NHL jersey I'll buy at full price since I think Giroux, honestly, because for so many years it's like I'm not paying $280 for a fucking Konecny.
That's insane. Like, that's actually fucking insane, dude.
Oh my god, yeah.
And like you said, I'm not doing it for fucking Travis Konecny or fucking. I mean, I was thinking about getting one for Jamie Drysdale, but like even I'll do it for Michkov, like you said. Absolutely, I'll be the first one at Dick's when it gets put in stock. You know, and you know that is going to get put in stock quick because they know those jersey sales are going to be fucking crazy.
Yep, that's a moneymaker for sure. And you know how, like, they normally have a terrible selection of Flyers gear, or at least in years past. I don't know if they do now, but like in years past, it would just be like Giroux. And then you would see some random one-off jerseys in there. Like, I remember one year I went in there, it was like Giroux, Matt Reed. I was like, damn, we're down bad right now, dude. We got like Giroux, Voracek, Matt Reed in a sad little corner, and then you have a bajillion Eagles jerseys in the other section of the store.
Reed.
I vividly remember. I remember going to a Dick's Sporting Goods and just laughing at that. I was like, we are chalked.
I saw a fucking Ryan White jersey one time in Dick's.
Tough
I was just like, where the fuck are we as an organization? And I'm looking at a fucking Ryan. I mean, no offense to Ryan, but like, come on, dude. Really? Who the fuck's buying that, dude? Like, probably Devin. Huh? Shout out to
center, man. Yeah.
Yeah, he was all right, dude. But like, you know what I'm talking about. Like, why the fuck is that jersey up there? You know, like, we have no respect, zero respect in the sports world in Philadelphia. Like, everyone glosses over the Flyers, dude. So to get that respect back with Michkov would be fucking nice to see.
Definitely. And we're just counting down the days, man. I guess we can wrap up
24.
this episode here. Yeah, this has been episode 110 of Liberty O. You can follow us on all socials at the Liberty O. Follow us on Twitter at TLY Danny and at Chris Stumps.
Go Floor.